Hello and welcome to the introduction video for my CS50w Capstone project. This is BeeSim. BeeSim is a browser game in which players take control of a bee colony in a forest. Players can register for an account with their email, username and password. After registration, new players must first decide on a forest to start their colony in. Forests are the playing fields in which the game takes place. They are laid out in a grid. In each forest, there are 3 different resource nodes: trees, flowers, and water sources. Flowers provide nectar and pollen, water sources provide water, and trees provide propolis. Nectar and water are used together to produce honey to feed the bees. Pollen is used to raise new bees, and propolis is used in construction. Each forest is randomly generated. The distribution of resources as well as the yield of each resource node is different for each new forest. Each forest can hold only a limited number of players, but new forests are generated automatically when no free spot can be found for a new player. Players cannot change their forests later, so it is important to consider all options. After a player has chosen their forest, they have to choose a tree for their first nest. Nests can only be constructed on a tree, and a tree with a nest boosts surrounding resource yields, so the location must be carefully considered. Once the player has settled into their new home, the development of their colony can begin. Players must raise units and gather additional resources. There are 2 types of units: workers and drones. Workers collect resources and drones protect the nest. They can be raised by using pollen gathered from flowers. Each unit consumes a certain amount of honey, so water and nectar collection needs to keep up with unit production. Nests can only hold a certain number of units at first. In order to raise more units, additional combs must be produced in the nest. Combs can be produced from propolis gathered from trees. If a nest is already full of combs and units, players can expand by constructing additional nests on other tree nodes in the forest. Players can switch between nests at any time. Each nest has its own resources and units and needs to be kept fed individually. In order to gather resources, a worker unit must be assigned to a resource node. Worker units can be assigned to any resource node at any time, given that no other worker of the same nest is collecting that node, and there are not too many other workers on the node. The game operates in cycles, which are a set length. At the end of each cycle, all assigned resource nodes are collected at once. The collected resources are stored in each nest. Then, all units, as well as the queen of each nest, consume a certain amount of honey. If there is not enough honey in storage after collection, the nest will enter the starving state. In this state, the nest can't raise new drones or produce combs or nests. If a player has mismanaged their nest badly, units can be dismissed to free up space. If resources seem hard to come by, players can resort to more sinister means of gathering them. Drones can not only protect the nest, but also be used to raid other players' nests. Those nests are not shown on the map, so careful investigation needs to be done before an all-out attack. Doing so can be risky. If no nest is found at the location, drones may get lost on the way. If a player raids another player's nest and wins, they can steal a certain amount of resources based on the amount of resources stored and the amount of drones that survived the attack. Drones on the losing side of any battle are lost. But even a win can come at heavy cost, so players need to carefully consider the cost and benefit of their actions. In order to protect your nest from other players, a good balance of drones and workers is required. Another way of dealing with raids is to forge an alliance with another player. Alliances can see each other's nest and are informed of attacks on or by their allies. They can then choose to intervene and send their own drones to the location. Players can communicate and coordinate through in-game messaging. Of course, alliances can also be broken. The goal of BeeSim is to create a thriving colony with many nests that can keep themselves fed and safe. BeeSim will show the player visual cues to help them understand what is happening in the forest. Regular cells, resources with assigned workers, nests, nests of allies, the selected cell, cells surrounding a tree, the current nest, the cell of the currently selected unit, a raid initiated by the player or their ally, a raid against the player or their ally. Clicking on a cell will also reveal which unit is currently busy on that cell. Guide content is shown depending on what the player is about to do. Confirmation or warnings are shown in the form of toasts. Resource collection, raids and alliance requests are shown in the form of notifications. Forged or broken alliances are reported with system messages.